Hello, Commanders, and welcome to a continuation of my series that will show you how to build and trap an AFK Stonewood Endurance here in Fortnite Save the World. For today's episode, I am going to show you how to build and trap your amplifiers. But prior to doing so, let's provide you with a quick recap on where we are at so far. In episode number 1, I showed you step by step how to prepare your home base amplifier for your east attacks. Then in episode 2, how to build, trap, and operate effectively and efficiently your material grinder. And then now, as mentioned, we are going to move into your amplifier builds. Now, this series is available within a playlist here on my YouTube page, and I do have the link to it in the description below. And you can go back and start episode 1 and work your way through to catch up to this point. And I do actually recommend it. All right. But anyway, amplifier talk. When it comes to amplifiers, if you do not build anything at all whatsoever around them, that is what's known as a naked or no build technique. This is something that is utilized when players want to save structures throughout their build, or because they've chosen to utilize other techniques such as coning, lighthousing, loop, or smasher bridges. Now, these are not techniques that I typically promote or utilize. However, playstyle is everything in Save the World, and you should choose ultimately your best path. Now, when it comes to your amplifier, this is your last layer of defense. So as such, I want you to make certain that you are in fact building around it, especially if you are a new player and or someone that does routine war games. Now, if you run war games, I would recommend stone actually around your amplifiers. And I have discussed in episode number 1 why I do recommend that. But otherwise, and as mentioned, tier 3 for everything. So let's go ahead and start with that. Now, can you use stone or wood for the build and still be successful? Absolutely. Do you have to have everything at tier 3 to be successful? Absolutely not. Here's my recommendation though. Ensure when it comes to your amplifiers, your block offs, your builds in general, try to utilize the same material throughout, because if you have weak material mixed in with strong or less tier items, it can cause aggro of the enemies, which can result in, your defenses falling. And we don't want that. So for instance here, if I were to tier 3 this off and leave this up here at 2, it would draw aggro, especially from lobbers and flingers, to throw at your objective here. So just make sure everything is at tier 3. Now, with a less is more mentality, making sure every structure that you place has purpose, use, and meaning. In case something were to go wrong, you could fix it. This is my recommendation. Now, the next thing that I would like to discuss, though, is the box that is located on the amplifier, because this is the main target point for the enemies. And my recommendation when it comes to your defense is to build around the natural pathing of the husks to welcome them or even bait them to this area here. And this is different for me based on recommendations that I would have when it comes to limited time modes like Frostnite, Survive the Horde, endgame content especially, where I do not recommend that you ever weaken your core walls to give the enemy a chance to defeat you easier because your wall strength is weaker. But here, based off of my builds, it is rare that you'll have anything get to this point. And when it comes to the trap preparation that I'm about to show you, it is truly mainly for either war games and or more importantly, your mini bosses. All right, so we're going to open up with a 1/3 wall to guide here. And then I'm going to go 1 and 2 out to this point with a wall and 1 and 2 out here. All right, and then again, everything at tier 3. When it comes to trapping, right here, 1/3 wall, primary wall dynamo. And I have covered the roles of my traps in the episode 1 there. But we'll go through and refer throughout the series on them. And again, my recommendations. I'm not someone that truly believes in best or worst when it comes to loadouts, schematic roles, so on and so forth. Because in the end, and ultimately, you don't need the most damage. You need the right damage in Save the World. And in fact, I think there's too much focus on damage in the game. And when it comes to trapping and building, I am a big promoter of sacrificing damage to acquire more consistency instead. You would not believe how much better your builds will operate if you have that mentality. All right. But otherwise, we will start there. Primary, and then making sure on that wall spike, again, that we have the heals attached 6 perk, okay, on that wall. And then a primary electric field. And then when we talk front to back throughout the builds of this series, 1 reload, front to back on any applicable walls. And then we will stagger side to side with a 2 reload. All right, just like this here, keeping that format. And then on top of your build here, I do like a primary anti-air trap facing to the east direction where your attack will occur. And then on the backside here, especially if you're doing war games, a healing pad. Because you want to stay alive during that specific type of activity. But for our dip amplifier, for our east attack, this is what we're looking at. Now, when it comes to my build, I will bring them down through the southeast and the northeast, but we'll block them and prevent them from coming across the east here. Enemies, if they are to come through, will come down this way and either attack this wall here, but usually and typically this wall right here. And because you have an extended build where you could have stuff wrapping through here, I also have a dart here. And then I actually do recommend one here on this side. Okay, so let's move now over to our west side amplifier. Now, moving forward, I will keep that same core initial build around all the amplifiers to expedite the video a bit here for you. Now, in this scenario, our box will be facing to the west, and as the name states, we have west attacks occurring here. And what I typically do on the northwest is I have the block off, and I will path them through the southwest into the objective. And I am also going to be covering these amplifiers in my recommended order of placement. So this would be our second additional amplifier placement here. Okay. And then what we are going to do here is, in this case, I'm going to open up 2 windows to go with the 1/3. Because the enemies tend to, for the most part, try to attack here. They will also attack these walls at times too, but if you're having anything but mini bosses or big ticket items coming through here, I would tell you to rework your builds, right? And then we'll have the same thing with the darts. Front and back, 1 reload on these walls here. And then side to side are 2 reload. Dart that will shoot 1, 2, into the 3 based on the description. But I always tell people, check your traps. Because even though in the game, they tell you specific mechanics of the trap, it's not necessarily always the case. There could be updates or, things that have not been written as such. So just be mindful of it. And then we will mimic, again, like we did on our other amplifier with the primary dynamo, the 6 perk heals attach right here, and your primary ceiling electric field. Now, these walls here would be optional for you, right? Meaning you can go ahead and put some dynamos here if you wish, if you're worried about high-level attack areas. And this is only if you have the extra pieces to do so. and or you're facing a mini boss for some reason, would you even consider this? But same thing here. Typically what I'll do is I'll have my primary here, right? And then maybe utilize, you know, either a primary stagger on the sides or secondary, as I refer to it as, which I'll do, a secondary and primary. A little bit more, when we talk about it, right? A little bit more damage in this case with our secondary than this, right? Focus, you would say. And then when they break through here, I would have a primary and then our secondary stagger in here when they face each other. Right? But anyway, that's what we'd have on the ground level. And then we come up here, anti-air trap facing to the west direction. And then, like before, the healing pad on the back for a burst heal if you need it. And you would adjust your trap accordingly to how you are utilizing it. All right, especially when it comes to that healing pad. All right, so that would be our west side amplifier. Then we're going to head over to our drop amplifier. And here we will receive attacks from the south and the west. So as such, we will come out here, 1 and 2 out. But believe it or not, 1 and 2 out this way as well. And then over here, same thing. Do want to point out that when it comes to this particular wall to the southeast, there's a hot spot out here that could affect or even take this wall from you. But when it does not occur, because it does rotate through different directions, depending on endurances you're doing, it's never the same, right? I always build as if it potentially won't occur, so the build will be stronger in the end. Right? And then for the purpose of this particular amplifier, you choose your direction on reloads, basically. So I'm going to say front to back is going to be the south attack. And don't typically have an attack here, so I'm not going to mess with that. All right, so nothing in the front there. And then that primary one reload shooting here and in here. And then we will come in with our stagger on the sides. And then I do not place one over here or any over here, but do over here. And actually right here as well. And again, we'll keep that same pattern. Then both sides here will be our, in this case, I'm going to go ahead with my primary wall dynamo. And then 2 of our heels attached wall spikes. Primary electric field. And then up top, anti-air facing to the south and to the west. And then when it comes to, you know, your healing pads could place either direction, either one here, or you could actually put one on each side, or include extra anti-air trap if you wish. Not necessary. This is just a just-in-case type trap. Right, so we have all of that going. And this would be your drop amplifier. And then we have our flex amp. And my recommendation has always been to place in the field. I never recommend a hill or a mine placement. And as such, the only amplifier that I will cover in this series will be the flex field amp. But if for some reason you have placed one of the other amps, you can still build everything else and then just use the techniques that I've shown you to create your hill and or mine amp. Right? I just like this for my particular build more. It's a playstyle choice. It flows better just overall when it comes to the endurance, in my opinion, and definitely with my build in general. All right, so we have all that going on. Now, with this amplifier, and this is important, whether you are doing war games or not, I would absolutely keep this at tier 3 metal. And the reasoning is, when it comes to your endurance, typically people are going to lose on this amp. There's a lot of modifier considerations with hotspots, torn apart, a lot of mini boss type things, especially later on. So be mindful and careful of it. When it comes to this box, it is right here. All right, now I build this one a bit different now. So let me show you what we're going to be doing here. So we're going to edit these two walls. And I'm actually, because we will have attacks from the west, the south, and the east, believe it or not, here. Right? But when it comes to this build, we're going to go ahead and use our primary 1 reload, and we'll call it front to back facing to the south here. And then over here to the side will be the 2 reload. I will then go ahead, seal these walls, open them with a window, and on the back of this, and believe it or not, this structure right here, I will line them with that heels attached spike. And then on the inside here, I would have my primary electric field here, and then the stagger over here. Because if the mini boss takes that, both of these could strike and be on that kind of rotation you're looking for. And then you have your dart shooting through. Do be aware that torn apart is not supposed to lift traps. However, can lift structures, which can then take your traps from you. So please be mindful of that. And then in here on these walls, right here, 2 different wall dynamos, your primary and your stagger or secondary. Then off of this, 1 and 2 with your walls, with 2 darts shooting straight out this way. Okay. And then we will go ahead and make sure those are tier 3. Then in the front right here, all right, I would go with an increased build health wall spike here. As a reminder to you, when it comes to your spikes, you can utilize heels attach, usually for me, on the inside, and then increase build on the outside and receive both effects. But what you cannot do is put the same 6 perk on both sides of the wall. But I do want that trap right here on this build. Again, this is mainly going to be for mini bosses as they work their way through. And then in the front here to the south, I do an extension here. Just like what you're seeing here to start with. Get your floor going. It's going to be a block off, basically. And what you're going to do is you're going to have your wall dart here. And believe it or not, right here, shooting through. And your 2 different reloads. I want a ceiling zapper, primary ceiling zapper right here. I want you to face your block off to the southwest direction. And I want a full block off here, just like we're seeing. All right, everything at tier 3. Now, when it comes to your structure here and overall, a couple of things that you can do, and I want to show you a technique here. Right now, I would not be able, because I have no other access points, right, for the most part, to be able to put a straight, strong wall and get that heels attached spike on the back side of it. Right. But you can still have your dart shooting through here, and you can jump through. And this is for my newer players, of course. Go ahead and get your heels spike on the back of this wall like this. Now, again, you look at this, you're like, man, you're using some pieces here. But yes, you do want to use this here. This is very important when it comes to the mini bosses here at the end. All right. And then what I do is I build this here, and I put an anti-air trap right down here on the floor. All right. And then what I typically do, believe it or not, when it comes to this floor trap, and I'm going to go ahead and cover it for you because I do, I have a support anti-air that I will utilize on the floor that's only got the one reload down here. All right. I do want to cover it, at least. I don't think we have so far in the series, but that's a support anti-air. And then my primary anti-air would be up top here. Support anti-air is typically floor level or out in the field more so than your primary on your builds. And I don't typically place heals attached building on these or increased build health because if you are taking that kind of sustained damage, you would want to go back and seriously think about your builds and double check them if you're getting that much sustained damage. I think that you're better off with durability, especially in endurance, unless you have like a space rocks modifier and you want to go ahead and adjust. But that's a playstyle choice. I'm not going to tell you one way or the other. All right. And then when it comes to this wall here, again, we'll shoot our darts here and here. And then on the front here, remember we had our primary, our stagger, and go back with the primary right here. Okay, so you wrap them around. And this is in case they will throw propane up in here. And you'll have 2 opportunities to protect yourself with it. And believe it or not, I would actually throw an additional anti-air trap over here. Primary again. And then, of course, out here for your other attack here. And then on the back side would be your healing pad. And the healing pad is mainly, once again, for war games, or if you happen to be following along through your endurance, you're facing like the safety zone wave, you don't want to aggro enemies anyway, you just want a quick, burst heal, but you don't want to die in war games or, it typically ends for you, so you don't want that to occur either. All right, so that would cover for your attacks from the south and the west on the amplifier. But we do need to take consideration the east in case the enemies were to come down this way and in. All right, so something to note here. All right, and what I'll do is open this up. Typically we'll have, and again, you want to go based off of the same way that you had traps going this way. So it's going to be a little flip here, right? So you got your reload going here. So basically using the stagger for the, side-to-side reaction. And then, of course, we've got the one reload here. And then you would have your one reload out here. And believe it or not, I don't put anything here. Don't tend to have an issue with it. Never. And then, again, let's go ahead with our primary electric field, wall dynamo, and then our trap for heals attached building here. And believe it or not, you could go one here. I don't recommend it typically because we don't tend to need it, but it's there. All right, and then this would be your flex field amplifier. From both directions. And overall, to recap, once again, we have, in this order of placement, your dip amplifier for your east attack. The west side amplifier for your west attack. Your drop amp for your south and west attacks. And then your field flex amp for the east, the south, and your west attacks.